What does it look like when the man everyone called the problem answers betrayal with law, not rage? How does a husband go from being mocked at a party to serving papers in a lobby full of strangers, while my phone keeps buzzing with group chat gossip? Before we dive deeper into the story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. My name is Iseult Marlowe, and I am the woman people whisper about now. I tell myself the whispers started because I chose joy over rules, not because I crossed a line. Ethan, my fiancé, liked order the way some people like music. He asked for early nights, clean calendars, and respect for boundaries with exes. I said he was smothering me, and that marriage needs air. At work, I told Maya it was normal stress, and I told HR I had everything under control. My mother begged for calm. My sister warned me to stop playing with fire. I heard them and felt clever anyway. The week before the party, small things shifted. 2 mugs sat far apart on the counter. A folder labeled household appeared beside the toaster. Ethan's phone flashed a reminder that said downtown 2:10 p.m., and he dismissed it without a word. He started sleeping on the far edge, not angry, careful. I called that cruelty and felt righteous. When the girls booked the rooftop, I said it would heal me. I told myself a kiss with an ex could be a goodbye. I decided the story of us needed a shock to wake it. I woke early and tried to rehearse my speech about freedom while I made eggs. I told myself I needed air, and he refused to see it. Ethan came in quiet and set 2 mugs on opposite sides of the counter. He asked if I slept well. I said I barely slept because stress ate my ribs. He nodded like a clerk, not a lover. I decided that proved my point. I checked my phone and typed a message to Maya that said the week felt heavy and I needed fun. She replied with hearts and said the rooftop would fix my mood. I liked that answer. I wanted a cure that did not ask me to change. When Ethan reached past me for the salt, I stepped away like he crowded me. He apologized for bumping my arm. I said I guessed he was keeping a tally. He frowned and asked what I meant. I told him he seemed distant and cold, and that I had to entertain myself. He said he wanted peace in the house. I said he was punishing me with silence. He stopped talking, which helped my case. On the dining table, he placed a folder labeled household. I asked if he started a new habit. He said he wanted documents in one place. I said normal people called that controlling. He didn't argue. He opened his laptop. A soft glow lit his face. I came closer and saw a small spreadsheet with initials and dates. He minimized it before I could read more. He asked if I needed the table for planning the Bachelorette, like he was trying to be polite. I said I didn't need permission. He said he only asked about space. I told him space had become a luxury since he monitored everything. He went quiet again, and I told myself I won. Later, in the bedroom, I tried on the white dress for the party. I took selfies that looked like bridal ads and sent one to Maya. She said the sash would look perfect under string lights. I felt lightheaded with praise. Ethan walked by the door and asked if I wanted tea. I said I did not need tea. I needed trust. He said he never said I didn't have it. I said trust meant I could talk to old friends without a debate. He asked if I meant Marco. I said I meant many things and he was narrowing it on purpose. He said boundaries did not equal bans. I told him he was twisting words. He left and closed the door softly. The soft close in my head became a slam. My mother called and asked if we were excited. I said we were very happy and that small nerves were normal. She told me to save energy for the wedding day. I said of course and then felt annoyed by her gentle tone. After I hung up, Anya texted and asked if I was doing okay, because my posts looked like I was picking fights with shadows. I told her the shadows had names and I listed Ethan's rules. She replied that asking for respect was not a rule. I said she always took his side. She said she took the side of the future. I muted the thread. By afternoon, the apartment felt like a waiting room. I walked to the desk to print a seating chart and smelled faint printer toner on the air, though I had not printed yet. I checked the tray and found nothing. I asked Ethan if he had used the printer. He said he reorganized receipts. I said he made receipts sound dangerous. He said they were just receipts. I rolled my eyes and said he liked paperwork more than people. He did not take the bait. When he set down his phone, a reminder flashed. Downtown 2:10 p.m. He dismissed it as if it were nothing. I asked if we had an appointment. He said it was personal. I laughed and said I didn't know we hid personal things now. He said everyone had errands. I said secrecy was the death of love. He did not answer. I noticed a USB stick under the blue taxes folder. It had today's date on white tape. I asked if he was archiving our history like a museum. He said he backed up household items. I said he rebuilt the relationship into shelves and drawers. He repeated that he wanted order in a busy week. I replied that order did not hug anyone. At dinner, I decided to test a line I had prepared. I told him I felt suffocated and needed to be around people who celebrated me. He asked if that meant the rooftop group. I said yes, and that he never liked my friends. He said he respected my friends but worried about my ex being there. I said the ex was harmless and that grown women could make choices. He said he believed that and asked only for discretion. I said discretion sounded like shame. He asked if we could set a time to come home. I said he could sleep and not wait for me like a watchdog. He said he would send a car at midnight if I wanted. I said I would decide later. He nodded and stacked plates for washing. I stared at the sink and decided the water sounded like applause from a distant crowd. I told him I would not apologize for wanting joy. He said he never asked for an apology. He asked for honesty. I replied that honesty was boring and that he mistook drama for lying. He didn't respond. He finished dishes and set my mug near the fruit bowl and his mug near the stove. The mugs felt like a boundary tape. I took a photo of the mugs and sent it to Maya with a joke about parallel lives. She wrote that he needed a class on fun. I agreed and felt my spine grow. In bed, I scrolled the rooftop page. I saw Marco's name on the flyer and told myself it was a sign that the past still had warmth. Ethan came in and stood by the dresser. He asked if I wanted to talk before sleep. I said I was tired and that we could talk when he believed in me. He said belief and caution could live together. I said he had already chosen caution. He said he did not want to fight. I said I did not want to be managed. He took his pillow and lay near the edge, facing the wall. I told myself he was punishing me with silence again. Close to midnight, I got up for water. In the dark hall, I heard a low mechanical hum from the other room, the sound of a shredder or a printer. I stood still and listened. The noise stopped. I walked in and found nothing obvious. On the way back, I saw the household folder on the table with its spine neatly aligned to the table edge. I moved it a little, just to see if he would notice. In the morning, I woke to a small, sharp moment. His phone screen lit, and a text preview showed a contact name that was only a lock emoji. The preview vanished before I could read the words. I felt a sting of curiosity and a rush of anger. I told myself he was doing secrets while accusing me of drama. I decided then that I would invite Marco to the Bachelorette, and I would call it healing. I told myself that if Ethan loved me, he would handle it like a grown man and not make a scene. I smiled at the mirror and practiced a casual line about goodbye kisses. The day opened like a door, and I stepped through. The open-plan office felt like a stage, and I walked in ready to perform. I placed my tote on the desk with a sigh that people could hear. I told the row that wedding planning was eating me alive, and that Ethan wanted to put rules on my friendships. A couple of co-workers nodded without looking up from screens. Maya spun in her chair and asked about the rooftop. I said it was set and that I needed it like air. She clapped softly and said this was my season. I liked that. I wanted the whole room to agree I was right. I opened my email and saw donor messages, but I felt bored by them. I typed a small rant in the team chat about partners who check calendars. A designer sent a laughing emoji. Another coworker sent none. I told myself silence meant support. I uploaded a draft flyer for a side event and added my selfie in a white dress. I called it branding. The operations lead passed behind me and asked if I could keep personal posts off the office thread. I said I was just keeping morale up. He walked away without a smile. Maya rolled her chair close and asked if Ethan was fine with Marco being at the rooftop. I said he did not own my past. She said the city was small and screens were big. I said nothing would get out of hand. I claimed that I just wanted a goodbye to the old me. She said goodbyes had a way of growing. I waved her off and posted another hint to my story, a boomerang of the skyline from last week with a caption about fresh air. My phone buzzed with a missed call labeled private. I let it ring out and turned it face down. A Slack ping blinked from Avery in HR. She asked for a quick word when I had 5 minutes. I told myself it was about my great work on the grant cycle. I stood, smoothed my skirt, and walked to the small HR room. The room smelled like lemons and policy. Avery said there had been comments about personal drama and tags that mentioned our nonprofit. She said donors could see and that we should hold a high bar. I said I understood and that wedding stress was temporary. She asked if everything at home was safe and stable. I smiled and said we were fine and that my fiancé just worried too much. She nodded and reminded me of the code of conduct around reputational risk. I thanked her and left thinking she was too serious. Back at my desk, I messaged Maya that HR cared too much about optics. She replied that optics paid salaries. I told her to relax, because my wedding would be great, and the party would blow the dust off my nerves. She asked if I had told Ethan that Marco might do a toast. I said I would tell him later. She sent a row of side eyes and then a heart. Near lunch, Anya texted and asked if I had time to meet. She said she had seen my stories and felt worried. I typed that she needed to stop making me feel guilty for wanting fun. She wrote that fun and self-harm sometimes look the same. I left the message on read and deleted a second line she sent. My mood lifted as I focused on the plan for the rooftop. I made a list of songs I wanted. I added Marco's old track because I liked the way it made me feel young. I opened our shared cloud to grab a budget file. A small pop-up appeared that said file uploaded successfully. I did not recognize the file name. I clicked around and saw new folders called Archive A and Archive B. I told myself Ethan was sorting receipts again, like a bored auditor. I messaged Maya that he was being weird with files. She asked if he ever got angry. I said he preferred control by clipboard. She wrote that it sounded worse. I agreed because agreement felt warm. In the break area, I poured coffee and checked the nonprofit's public page. A community partner had shared a photo set from the rooftop venue promoting Marco's residency night and tagged my name. The post called him the headliner for my event. I felt a flush in my neck and a spike of pride. A coworker standing near the microwave glanced at my screen. She asked if I was working with that club again. I said it was private life and brand synergy. She did not answer. When I came back to my desk, the operations lead had left a sticky about draft deadlines. I rolled my eyes and sent him a smiley in the thread. Afternoon dragged until I forced busy work. I edited a grant paragraph and then opened the team chat to vent again. I wrote that Ethan wanted me home by midnight and that I was not a child. A junior staffer sent an awkward thumbs up. Another asked if we could keep the chat for work. I ignored that and sent a selfie with a caption about oxygen. The selfie looked good. It told the world I was fine, even when I was not. Avery pinged me again and asked if I had time for a follow-up next week. The message title read, Follow-up. I opened it and then deleted the preview. I did not like the word follow. It sounded like a trap. I told myself my only job was to be happy and that everyone else was jealous of my coming night. I made a private list titled Toast Plan and wrote 3 lines about choice and freedom and boundaries. I pictured the crowd cheering. I pictured Marco smiling, like he understood me more than Ethan ever could. That picture made my fingers shake with a quick thrill. Maya sent a voice note and said she heard someone from our office was also invited to the rooftop. She said I should consider optics. I replied that optics would take care of themselves if I looked amazing. She sent to Sai. I told her to help with balloons instead of morals. She agreed and asked about dress code. I told her white for me, jewel tones for them. Planning soothed me. It made me feel like a general who already won. Before close of day, another missed call from private flashed and faded. I told myself Ethan had set his number to hide because he wanted to teach me a lesson. I decided to teach him a counter lesson. I would not ask permission or send my location. I pictured myself sliding past midnight and then arriving home with the story about celebrating, nothing more. I believed the story while I thought of it, which felt like proof it could be true. On the way out, I stopped by the lobby to check my reflection in the glass. I looked polished and brave. I lifted my chin and rehearsed a calm line that said, the kiss would only be symbolic if it happened at all. I promised myself I would keep it classy. I decided that boundaries were a boring word for people who never got chosen. I was halfway to the elevator when the operations lead called my name and said the manager wanted a quick word. At the same second, my phone pinged with a tag from the rooftop page that showed Marco and the line announcing my Bachelorette night. My stomach flipped. The manager stood in the doorway and raised a hand for me to come in. The tagged photo kept blinking on my screen like a dare. The rooftop air felt sweet and fake, like candy. String lights drew lines across the sky, and everyone looked better under them. Maya waved me forward like I was the main act. I lifted my chin and walked to the table they saved for us near the DJ booth. Marco stood behind the gear and lifted a hand in a lazy salute. I told myself this was harmless theatre. I told myself the city expected a show, and I could give one without paying for it later. The music thumped through my ribs. Bridesmaids pressed close and said the night was mine. I heard the chant start for a toast, small at first, then strong. I raised my glass and teased out the idea of choice and fresh air. People cheered at the words, even if they were nothing. Marco cut the track for a beat and made a swirl with his hand like a drummer. It felt like he tuned the sky to my mood. I looked for a camera and found many. I decided that attention was a kind of love. A server brought sparklers in a metal bucket. Everyone leaned in. Someone asked if Ethan was fine with big nights. I said he liked lists more than lights. Laughter rolled like a wave, and I surfed it. I let the joke become the room's truth, even if it was not fair. I watched it land on faces and make new lines in their opinions. I liked the power. I told myself power could fix the ache. Marco slid a new track under my words, an old song from the year we dated. My chest remembered it before my mind did. He leaned across the booth and asked in a low voice if I wanted to step toward the back for air. I told myself yes was healthy. I told myself I needed air to stay clean. We moved to the smoking patio, which smelled like mint gum and ash. A stranger held the door and said we looked good together. I smiled too long and pretended not to hear the part that mattered. On the patio, a small group smoked and watched the skyline. I placed my glass on the ledge and let the city move below me. Marco stood near enough to share heat. He spoke about old times and said the version of me back then knew how to breathe. I said marriage would not choke me. He said weddings bury friendships if you let them. I said I would not let them. We were two actors reading a very old script. A vibration pressed against my hip. I checked my phone and saw Ethan's text. He asked if he should send a car at midnight. He asked if I felt safe. He added a calm line about the long week. I stared at the words and felt a flash of annoyance at his steady tone. I swiped the screen dark and told myself I had earned one night off from caretaking. I placed the phone face down. I told Marco the night felt like a border I could cross and return from. He nodded like I had just won a prize. The chant for a toast reached us even on the patio. Maya stood near the door and rounded people up. A small group carried phones like lanterns. I straightened my dress and said we could give them a better photo than last year's. Marco laughed. A woman near the heater held up her phone and said the lighting was perfect where we stood. I heard a soft beep, the sound of a recording app starting. I looked at the sky instead of the lens. I liked how the stars did not care. We went back inside for the toast. The floor shifted under our feet, the way it does when too many people jump at once. In the corner of my eye, I noticed a milk crate by Marco's booth. Inside lay cables and a thin binder with a word on the spine, utilities. It looked out of place at a party, and I almost made a joke, but the chant cut me off. Maya lifted her phone and said we were doing this now. The crowd squeezed us tight. I spoke about old selves and new vows and the freedom to carry both. Hands shot up with glasses. Marco leaned in to hear my last line. In the break between beats, someone's camera flash cracked like lightning. When the cheer rose, Marco brushed my cheek with his hand. I did not move away. I told myself the past needed a small ceremony. I told myself that saying goodbye with warmth was mature. He leaned, and I met him. The kiss was soft and long enough for the room to pick a side. The whoop around us felt like a train passing. I heard my heart and the bass, and maybe a little of my own breath. I told myself I was writing a tiny rule for myself. I could take what I needed and still be a good fiancé. I decided that ideas like harm and loyalty were bigger than one night, so the math would balance later. Phones lifted higher. The woman near the heater moved in and framed us perfectly. The soft recording beep hit the edge of my hearing. Someone shouted that I looked free. Someone else said this would go viral. I felt a fierce pride and then a thin fear. The elevator bell rang from the hallway. The patio door latch clicked as people moved in and out. All the metal sounds made the moment feel official, like the city had stamped it. My phone vibrated on the ledge where I had left it earlier. I flipped it and saw a calendar buzz from Ethan's device pop up on the shared banner that sometimes mirrored across our accounts. It read, "Meeting, personal." The words looked dry and safe. I told myself he was probably planning something sweet, maybe moving money for the honeymoon. I allowed that thought to calm me. I picked up the glass and swallowed the last of the drink to seal the scene. Maya called for one more photo, a group shot. She told me to stand between Marco and her. She said the left side was my good side. I believed her like I always did when she pointed a camera at me. We smiled too big. The crowd pushed in. A coworker from my office stepped onto the patio with another woman and stopped mid-step. Her eyes went wide. She held her phone low but not off. I felt a tiny pinch. I told myself she would keep it to herself because she admired me. I told myself I had given the city a show and the city owed me silence. The night rolled on, softer after the spark. I went back and forth between the floor and the fresh air. I ignored Ethan's next text. I thanked Marco for playing our old song. I told him it helped me close a door with tenderness. He said doors like that never fully close. I said he was dramatic, and then I let him be right for 2 breaths. Close to closing time, I stood alone by the rail and watched traffic below. The phones in the room kept blinking like fireflies. I imagined each one holding a friendly angle. I did not imagine the other angles. I chose not to. When we left, I hugged my friends and waved at 3 separate cameras. I said the night had been healing. They cheered. I walked to a rideshare with Maya and posted a boomerang of our shoes. I told myself the world would understand the poetry of it. I slept late and woke to the sound of my phone buzzing on the nightstand. My stomach flipped before I opened my eyes. The group chat showed a new post count. The rooftop page had a fresh clip. In the preview, the frame froze on my face, tilted toward Marco. The caption used a heart. The view count jumped in real time. My breath caught even before I hit play. The family restaurant had a long table with a fake flower runner and loud birthday music from another group. My mother waved me to a seat near the middle and told me to smile more. I sat with my back straight and said I was fine, just tired. My sister watched me the way a lifeguard watches water that looks calm but hides an undercurrent. Ethan arrived a few minutes late and chose a chair at the far end near his parents. He nodded at me without heat. I told myself the calm was an act, and that I should win the room before he did. Menus blocked small faces as people pretended to read. My nephew Jace tugged at my sleeve and asked if this was a wedding practice. I told him it was only dinner. Maya texted that the clip had more views. I slid the phone face down and said I would handle it later. Ruth, his mother, asked if the planning was on track. I said of course and added that a party was just a party. A cousin asked if the rooftop video was staged. I laughed and said the camera angle was confusing. The laughter that came back felt thin. Appetizers landed, and everyone reached for bread. I kept my voice light and said I believed in modern vows. I explained that love could hold mistakes if the base was strong. My mother reached for my water and said hydration helped nerves. Anya asked if I had told Ethan everything about the night. I said there was nothing to tell, only noise and bad lighting. Ethan buttered a roll and stayed quiet. I wanted him to interrupt so I could accuse him of drama. His silence gave me nothing to push against. The server asked about drinks and left a sweet smell of citrus as she moved away. I noticed a faint smell of printer toner when Ethan took off his jacket and placed it on the seat back. It made no sense in a restaurant, but I recognized it. He spoke softly to his father about a project at work. I leaned forward and said he loved paperwork more than people. My mother frowned and asked me to lower my voice. I said the whole point of family was honesty and daylight. A phone on the far end lit with a tag from the rooftop page. A younger cousin skimmed and hid the screen like it burned. Ruth folded her napkin into a neat strip and set it parallel to the fork. Clive, his father, asked if the wedding had a new date or the same date. I said the same, and that we should think positive thoughts. Anya pressed her lips and asked if I had apologized. I said I would never grovel for a prank that got out of hand. The word grovel made her look away. When the main dishes arrived, the table grew louder in the safe way people use when they want to drown a bad note. I spoke about photography packages and playlists. I told the story of how Marco was the booker for the venue and how everything had been exaggerated by mean people. I said Ethan had been more upset about curfew than about my joy. I waited for someone to call that unfair. No one did. Ethan asked the server for another water and thanked her with a calm tone. I felt my jaw tighten because calm sounded like victory. After cake for the other birthday group, we paid and walked to the park 2 blocks away. The late light put a gold line on the slide. Jace ran to the swings and asked if I could push him. I said yes and pushed in slow arcs. Anya stood near and said the internet was not kind today. I told her the internet was bored and we were feeding it for no reason. She said I always pretend fire is just light. I said she always pretends ice is safe. The swing creaked in a steady rhythm like a metronome for lies. Ethan tied Jace's loose shoelace without looking at me. Ruth watched without speaking, hands in her coat pockets. Clive asked if a break before the wedding might help. I said breaks were for weak teams and that we were strong. Jace looked from me to Ethan and asked if Uncle Ethan was sad because Auntie kissed a different boy. The swing stopped. The truth sat there like a small, bright stone. I told Jace that adults make mistakes in stories and then fix them. Ethan said he would take Jace for ice cream later. No one else moved. Maya texted again with a screenshot. She wrote that someone from my office had reposted the video in a private channel. My stomach turned. I told Anya the clip was being taken out of context. She asked what context made a kiss look wise on the eve of a wedding. I said the context was that I was human and wanted to feel alive. She said feeling alive was not the same as being kind. The words settled on my shoulders like a small weight I refused to carry. We walked home slowly. At the apartment, the balcony chairs waited with one cushion missing. Ethan set 2 mugs on the counter again, one near the fruit bowl, one by the stove. I took it as a signal that he wanted distance, and I told myself distance was a power play. He placed his keys in the bowl. I saw a new, unfamiliar key on the ring. I asked what it was for. He said he had added a key. I laughed and said it sounded like a bunker plan. He said nothing. I went to the desk to check the printer for a ticket confirmation. The tray was empty, but the faint toner smell felt fresh again. I opened a drawer and found it locked. As I stepped back, I heard the drawer's lock click into place. My cheeks got hot. I told myself he had secrets while he accused me of theatre. I told myself his calm was cover for something colder. I decided to hold the line and not beg. Anya came by to pick up a scarf and asked if I was ready to make a real apology. I said I would apologize when people admitted they judged me harder than they judged any man. She said I always turned the mirror so it missed my face. I asked her to leave if she planned to scold me. She said she loved me and would not take sides. Then she left the scarf and walked out. I stared at the door and told myself she wanted my crown more than my safety. As evening dropped, my mother called to ask if we still planned to come over on Sunday. I said yes, and added that everything was under control. She asked if the rooftop kiss was as minor as I claimed. I said of course. She went quiet, and then said she hoped I chose honesty soon. While she spoke, my phone vibrated in my hand with another incoming call from an unknown number. I ignored it and promised my mother we were fine. After I hung up, the apartment felt like a stage again, but without lights. I turned on the TV for noise. From the other room, I heard a low mechanical hum start and stop, like a shredder or a printer warming. I raised the volume and pretended I did not hear it. I went to the supermarket for milk and bread and moved fast down the aisles. 2 neighbors looked at me, then looked away. I told myself they were bored and needed a new show. At the checkout, the cashier asked about the wedding in a bright voice. I said plans were strong, and people online loved drama. She nodded without meeting my eyes. My phone buzzed with a preview from the group chat. I did not open it. A missed call labeled private slid across the screen and faded. I told myself spam loved big moments. Back home, I placed the bag on the counter. Ethan stood by the shelf with a small stack of thin binders. The spines read home, auto, bank. I asked if we were opening a library. He said he wanted things sorted because the week was busy. I said normal couples were messy before a wedding. He said he preferred calm. I laughed and said calm was a costume. He did not reply. He set my mug by the fruit bowl and his mug by the stove. The distance between them felt exact, like he used a ruler. I walked into the bedroom and stared at the guest bed. The blanket looked slightly disturbed. I told myself he had started sleeping there, and then reversed it to make me feel guilty. I decided I would not be tricked by linen. When I came back to the kitchen, a small cloud notification flashed on the tablet near the charger. It said, "File uploaded successfully." I asked if he had moved our photos. He said he was archiving household items and travel details. I said travel details sounded like escape plans. I checked my inbox and found an email from Avery asking to schedule a check-in. The subject read, "Follow-up." I told myself I was done with serious rooms. I replied that I was heads down on grants and would confirm later. I sent Maya a message that HR needed hobbies. She answered that HR liked quiet and that I needed quiet too. I told her the city wanted a better ending, not quiet. She asked if Ethan was still calm. I said he was so calm that it felt like chalk. In the late afternoon, I passed his office nook and saw his laptop open. Browser tabs sat in a neat row. The words said storage options, delivery tracking, notary, near me. A calendar block at the bottom corner read, downtown 11:50 a.m. I asked through the doorway if he had errands. He said he had personal tasks. I said a surprise for me would be nice. He said he was not working on a surprise. I said life without surprise was dull, and people looked elsewhere for air. He looked at the screen and said nothing. I texted my mother that all was steady. Then I texted Anya that people were making a meal out of crumbs. Anya wrote that a crumb pile could choke a person. I set the phone down and opened the balcony door. Air slid in, cool and thin. Ethan joined me and handed me my mug. We looked at the street without speaking. A car idled facing outward, as if ready to go. I asked if he planned to drive somewhere later. He said he might. I asked if we could sit together and plan new vows. He said vows were made with actions, not captions. I said captions reached people faster. He did not argue. Near dusk, I went to the gym locker room to test my dress with real mirrors. Women talked in quiet pairs by the lockers. A face I knew from the neighborhood smiled with tight lips. She asked if I was all right. I said I was glowing. She said she hoped the wedding stayed on track. I said track was a controlling word. On the way out, I checked my phone and saw the rooftop clip copied into a private work channel. I felt heat rise to my ears. I told myself it would blow over as long as I acted unbothered. I returned to the garage with my tote. The concrete echo made my shoes sound too sharp. When I reached our spot, Ethan was cataloguing the trunk. He asked if I had the spare key fob. He said he was doing inventory. I said the word inventory tasted like metal. He said he wanted to keep track of shared items. I said we were not a moving company. He closed the trunk and said he would send me a list later. I said lists drained love from life. He asked if I wanted to take the car tonight. I said I would ride with friends because independence mattered. He nodded once. Back upstairs, I walked past the wall planner. A red circle marked a date with no label. A sticky note beside it said, "Bring forms." I pulled the note halfway loose. He pressed it back flat without looking at me. I told myself he worshipped paper for comfort. I opened the fridge and stared at the light. The apartment felt like a stage before actors arrive. The quiet hurt in a slow way. Maya called and asked if I could stop posting for a day. She said donors followed us, and our boss watched the public channels. I said if I froze now, the internet would smell fear. She said courage was not the same as noise. I told her Ethan had been colder than marble all week, and that I felt invisible. She said being visible and being right were different. I ended the call without saying goodbye. Evening slid into night. I sat at the desk to print a photo order and smelled a thin line of toner again. The printer spat a blank page as if to tease me. I checked the driver and found nothing wrong. I opened the top drawer and found it locked. I called out to ask for the key. Ethan said he would move things later because he was organizing. I said he loved locks more than people. He said locks protected both of us. I opened our shared cloud on my phone and scrolled past Archive A and Archive B. I took a screenshot and sent it to Maya with a note that said he was building a museum of us. She replied with a single sigh emoji. At 9, my mother asked if we were coming for lunch on Sunday. I said yes. She asked if the party had a quiet ending. I said it did and blamed bad angles. She paused and then asked if I had apologized with my whole voice. I said apologies were manipulators for small minds. She said she hoped I would see the ground again. I ended the call and stared at the floor as if a map would appear. I stepped onto the balcony and looked at the city. In the apartment behind me, Ethan moved with careful steps. I turned and asked if he wanted to try counseling before the wedding. He said he had meetings already. I asked what kind. He said, personal meetings. I said meeting was a vague word. He said clarity would come soon. I said suspense was toxic. He stayed quiet. We stood with our mugs cooling in our hands. He thanked me for returning the spare fob and said he would keep the car keys separate for now. I said separate sounded like punishment. He said separate sounded like care. I said I did not accept that logic. He said he understood. He added that he would handle matters properly. I said he was making it dramatic by using big words. He said he had no interest in drama. Inside the hall, footsteps paused outside our door and then continued. I decided to act before the story swallowed me. I bought roses because flowers looked like humility in photos. I took the metro to Ethan's office tower at lunch because lunch crowds soften scenes. In the glass door, I checked my face and practiced a soft smile. I told myself I would make a gentle speech about pressure and stress and the way love survives ugly angles. I told myself he would listen in public because he liked to look civilized. The lobby hummed with shoes and badge beeps. Security guards watched the turnstiles. A printer behind the desk started and stopped, spitting visitor stickers in neat strips. I held the roses so the stems pressed my wrist. I sent Ethan a text that said I was downstairs and wanted 2 minutes. I pictured him stepping out with careful eyes, the way he always did when he planned a piece. I stood by a polished pillar and timed my breathing like a singer. I felt brave because I had a plan. He came from the elevator bank, already walking toward the security desk. His shirt collar sat clean and flat. He did not look angry or tired. He looked like a person finishing a task he understood. Beside him stood a stranger in a dark blazer holding a slim folder. The guard raised a hand to me and asked my name. I said my full name and added that I was here for my fiancé. The guard glanced at the stranger and then back at me. The stranger spoke in a calm voice and asked me to confirm my name again. I said it, slower. The stranger said he had documents for me. He said he was authorized to deliver them here. He asked if I was ready to receive. My fingers tightened on the roses until a thorn bit my palm. I asked what documents he meant. He held the folder level and explained that it contained a petition for dissolution of marriage with temporary financial and possession orders. He said the documents also proposed an interim schedule for access to shared property and the dog. He said service would be complete when he handed them to me, and I acknowledged receipt. He spoke like a person reading weather, not drama. I looked at Ethan. He kept his eyes on me, steady and distant at the same time. I asked him quietly if this was a joke to scare me. He said it was not a joke and not a scare. He said this was a formal process. He said we would shift to email for communication and that we would use calendars to arrange any item exchanges. He added that I should read the papers and contact the address listed if I had questions. He did not raise his voice. He did not reach for me. 2 board donors from my non-profit were in the corner near a sculpture, waiting for a meeting. I recognized them when they turned and whispered to each other. I felt my face heat. The front desk printer spooled another strip of visitor badges that made a soft clicking sound like a metronome. My phone buzzed with group chat pings. I did not look down. I told myself I could still fix this if I performed the right heart. I told myself public grace could win a public moment. I said to the stranger that I did not accept. He said acceptance was not required for service. He asked again to confirm my name. I gave it and felt small when I heard it back in the lobby. He placed the folder in my hand. The paperweight felt heavier than it should. The first page showed blocks of text and blank lines, no letterheads that I could name from far, just the clean layout of official things. I did not turn the pages because the sight made the inside of my chest feel hollow. Ethan nodded at the guard and thanked the stranger for his time. He said to me that all future contact should be written and that he would not join discussions in hallways or lobbies. He said there would be an inventory list in my email for items at the apartment and that I could select times from a schedule to pick up personal things. He said the temporary orders proposed exclusive use of the apartment for him while the process moved, with a plan for the dog to spend certain days with me if I wished. He said there would be no shouting and no scenes. I tried a new tactic because it was my last tool. I told him I was ready to apologize in full if he came with me to a quiet corner. I said I could explain the rooftop and the months before it. He said he had heard my explanations before and that now the process would hold the line. He said he wished me health. He did not step closer. He looked like a person keeping a boundary, taught to him by a careful teacher. The board donors looked away in that heavy way. People look away when a story changes shape. A co-worker from my office came through the turnstile and stopped when she saw me. She asked if I was all right. I said I was handling paperwork. My voice sounded wrong in my ears. The coworker nodded without understanding and kept moving. The security guard asked if I needed a seat. I shook my head and said I was fine. The roses slipped a little in my grip. A petal fell and skated across the floor toward the desk. I opened the folder an inch and saw terms that felt like metal. There was a simple line about temporary possession and another line about account staying frozen in place until mediation. There was a section about respectful contact and boundaries, and a line that directed communication to email. There was a note about a date to review conditions. The words did not shout. They did not have to. They stood like a wall in daylight. I told Ethan that he was humiliating me. He said I'd already chosen public stages, and he would not add noise. He said this was the cleanest way to protect both of us. He said he hoped I would take care of myself. He turned slightly toward the elevator, then paused to ask the server if anything else was required. The stranger said the handoff was complete and thanked me for my time. He left through the rotating door. The guard wrote something on a clipboard, labeled only with the word statement, and slid it under the counter. I tried to swallow and could not. I said to Ethan that love could forgive. He said love could also respect consequences. He said he was finished with arguments and would follow the plan in the documents. He added that he would not respond to late-night messages and that any pickup would happen with notice. He thanked the guard again and stood waiting for my choice to leave or step aside. His face did not carry hate. It carried something harder to move, clarity. Around us, badges printed and visitors moved through lines. The lobby had no opinion. Donors walked toward the elevator bank with their eyes straight ahead. My phone buzzed with the group chat again, and then with a message from HR asking if I was available later. I did not answer. I looked at the roses and felt their weight. The petals were already loosening from the heat. The guard said I was clear to exit when ready. I nodded without seeing him. I held the folder because letting it fall would make a sound I did not want to hear. My hand opened a little. The roses slid. They hit the tile, scattered, and lay there. I turned toward the doors because there was nowhere else to go. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching.